Here's what Connecticut is saying about Lisa Wexler.
I just love the moderation of the way you handle the calls.
Back to the Lisa Wexler Show on WICC 600.
And welcome back to the show. John Gomes joining us right now. He is the mayoral candidate for Bridgeport. He'll be running on the independent line on February 27th. I'm sure you know the name in person. He's had a historic matchup with Joe Ganim thus far, and finish line February 27th. John Gomes, welcome back to the Lisa Wexler Show. Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. A pleasure. Listen, we're going to have a chance to talk with each other, but one of the things I thought would really be good and fun and important for you was actually to hear from your public. So if we've got Bridgeport residents that are voters, we're inviting them to be part of the conversation at 203-333-9422. And I'm actually going to ask Bob from Bridgeport to begin. Bob, what is your question or comment for John Gomes? Hi, Bob. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. A very simple question. I live in Black Rock, and what I see is being missing here is our two senators, Blumenthal and Murphy. Why aren't these guys more active in promoting Bridgeport, bringing business into Bridgeport, subsidizing maybe some of the things that need to be done in Bridgeport? And for what they do, and you read in other states and bridges or whatever it might be, those kinds of things happen. We literally get next to nothing. And it seems to me, and there are a few other issues here, Waterbury and maybe another city or two, but basically Bridgeport's a very pivotal part of Connecticut for votes, for business, for commerce, for just about anything you can think of. Why aren't they actively involved in promoting and helping Bridgeport? Now, I want you to ask question also to Mr. Ganim. Thank you. Please.
I will. Thank you, Bob. Go ahead, John. You want to take that? Go ahead.
Well, I would begin by saying thank you, Bob, for your question. Thank you for participating and look at how we could change Bridgeport together. That is exactly why I'm running. You need someone at the leadership role as mayor of the city that hold these elected officials accountable. We, the people of Bridgeport, are tired of photo ops. We have these elected officials that come here, take photo ops, and go away. We need to strengthen the relationship with not only the federal level, at the state level, to demand what we need here in Bridgeport. We cannot just be used as a stomping ground for elected opportunities and then don't show up to give back what the Bridgeport residents deserve. We need to push for stronger economic base, not only on quality of jobs and well-paying jobs coming, but also infrastructure. We need to look and identify specific industries that we need to bring back to Bridgeport in order to put good-paying jobs, quality jobs back in Bridgeport so we could be able to have a good quality of life here in Bridgeport.
So, John Gomes, what industries specifically would you target as mayor?
Well, my thing is to look at Advanced Connecticut, to go and work with the Connecticut Economic Development Agency to understand what industries are looking to come into Bridgeport. And then look at Bridgeport. Look, there's some workforce development agencies that we can work with to make sure that we have the foundation, the infrastructure to accommodate. We don't have that sense of urgency coming from, the city hall to the state. We could look from the hospitality, artificial intelligence. We could look at manufacturing. We could look at medical manufacturing. We could look at the financial sector. There are tons of industries that we could look at, but until we find out what is coming to Connecticut, because often when they come to Hartford, they are derailed away from Bridgeport. They go to Milford, they go to Shelton, they go to Stamford. We need to have someone in that mayor's seat that's going to be there and fight, and at the same time, demand from our elected officials from the state level to work with us. Bridgeport continues to carry a black cloud over us, a stigma of corruption. And that's why I'm fighting to get in the seat so we can end that and show that we are a resilient community with people that are intelligent, vibrant, have the experience necessary to bring back what Bridgeport once was, a thriving community when you talk about economic development, when you talk about industries. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's my promise to the city of Bridgeport and all its residents and voters, because I am in the city. I'm paying the high taxes, the subpar quality of education, the streets that are dirty, the crime. And yet every day I'm paying taxes after taxes that are high, while this mayor that's in the seat goes and gets a $20,000 reduction on his taxes, or 66%, while ours is high as it can be. It's just unfair, and that's why we are moving to another general election on February 27th, that we reach all voters for Bridgeport across all party lines to come and make a choice finally who they want as their next leader of the city.
We're chatting with John Gomes. George from Bridgeport, you're on the air with candidate John Gomes. 203-333-9422 is our number. Go ahead, George. What's your question for the candidate?
Hello, you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, what Mr. Gomes says is absolutely right. He's absolutely correct. But in order to accomplish all that, the community leaders in this city have a hard work to do, is educate the new generations to make the right decision, to be their own leaders, not to be followers. Because that's what happened right now in the city of Bridgeport. The council is corrupted. It's all followers.
What is your question? Do you have a question for Mr. Gomes?
Well, I just give you my advice. In order to accomplish all that, we have to fix the community. We have to teach the community to make the right choices. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you very much, George. Mr. Gomes, do you want to respond to that? Go ahead, yeah.
Lisa, I definitely agree with George. Right now, the next generation does not want to come back to Bridgeport. You know, they go to college and they stay away because we don't have nothing to offer. And that's why we're fighting. We are fighting to get rid of this negativity, this corruption, there's suppression. Remember, we are here because we called this current administration, along with members of the DTC and certain members of the city council, stealing votes and stuffing illegal absentee ballot in the box. We had to go to court to fight, and we won. This election, on the back of Joe Ganim, the Democratic Town Committee, Wanda Jita, Mario Testa, is costing the city over $300,000 on their back because it was dumb that we caught cheating.
So let me ask you this, John, since you brought it up, you catch them cheating 100% and the judge ordered a new election. Why do you think in the latest incarnation of the Democratic primary with all eyes on it, why do you think you lost?
Well, I'll give you a very simple answer. Many of my supporters, unbeknown to them, were changed from party affiliation. That's just one.
What do you mean?
Wait.
What do you mean?
For example, I'll give you two schools. Helen Schools, Barnum School, Dunbar School. 40 people were turned away of my supporters, were turned away. Some went, they all of a sudden became unaffiliated. Supposedly the motor vehicle department changed their party affiliation. Other people became Republican. We had people within my campaign that voted for me with the general and the primary and couldn't vote. Remember, my last election, I beat Joe Ganim by over almost 600 votes at the poll. The numbers do not add up. And we feel our voters were disenfranchised, and we are moving forward with the general election because now, regardless of party affiliation, voters of Bridgeport have an opportunity to come out and vote because we are here because, again, Joe Ganim, Wanda Jita, Democratic Town Committee, put us in this situation.
John, that's a very serious charge. Are you charging the Ganim campaign with tampering with people's registrations for the purpose of depriving their right to vote in the primary?
What I'm saying to you is there are facts. If you take a survey, and we could call around, there are many people, many of my supporters that showed up for some reason, their party affiliation were changed. Some went to the motor vehicle or some idea of the state of Connecticut. They were changed because they did not check off the Democrat box when they were at the motor vehicle. They were switched to unaffiliated. There are others that we don't know how because they did not go to the motor vehicle.
So are you asking SEEK to investigate? Are these voters asking SEEK to investigate?
Some have requested to us and we have asked. But the continual answer is that if anyone that goes to the motor vehicle, if you do not check the Democratic or Republican or any party affiliation, they will automatically switch you out of your party and put you unaffiliated. And that has happened time and time again. And I'm telling you, if there are any voters or listeners out there that showed up at the poll, please call in because we're receiving those calls. And I'm not saying it's one direction towards the Ganim, but I know for a fact that the motor vehicle has part to doing this. This has been a long withstanding complaint to the state that this needs to be looked at because we have people with language barriers, cultural barriers that go to the motor vehicle, and they are a Democrat, and they're being switched out. And the same thing are happening with the Republicans. They are being switched out to an unaffiliated party simply because they don't check it off at the end of the.
I didn't think the DMV was where that needs to happen. I thought it was at the voter registrar, at the town clerk or the registrar.
Absolutely. And that's a complaint that we've had. I myself found out before the September primary that two of my daughters were switched off from Democrat to unaffiliated because of the motor vehicle, and I had to go and switch them out. During this last primary, we had people close to internal my campaign, my election, that could not vote because they were switched out of their party.
But if that's the case, you would think that would also affect people that would be voting for Joe Gann. I mean, that's not specific to you or your campaign. That's just an issue, right?
And that's an issue, and that's why we continue to ask the governor, the state legislative, to get involved, not only to look at that issue, but also the absentee problem that we continue to have in the city. This city has been plagued by such problem. In 2017, 2018, there were two primaries that were overturned to be redone. 2022, Brown versus Hennessy, 127 district. We continued, and now in 2023, we had three Superior Court judges, Bellis, Stephen, Clark, who have said there has to be a redone of primaries because of absentee and other fraudulent behavior when we talk about the electoral process here in Bridgeport. We have a problem. We need to address that. And also, the governor cannot come out and say, now we put everything under the rug, we move forward. It's unacceptable. You're disenfranchising the voters of Bridgeport. That's why we have a general election, because it was a special order because of the cheating of Joe Ganim. You know, and when those comments are made, it just brings interest to want to say, you know, is there a conflict of interest? Because we have affiliates that are within the state level that have used consulting company, Park City Consulting, that when we were in court, Attorney Blast argued that this agency has received over $140,000 from 10 elected state members, along with the DTC for consulting, all the way up to the governor. And that has to be looked at because there's a conflict of interest here. And these companies being operated by people that work within the Ganim administration, high level, getting paid from the legislative director, getting paid $81,000 to the deputy chief of staff, making $121,000. We need to be transparent.
We're chatting with John Gomes, who is the mayoral candidate. Mr. Gomes, you do realize that your candidacy, your campaign is also the subject of some SEEK investigations as well.
Well, we welcome any investigation. Back on September 6th, we wrote a letter asking SEEK to get involved because we knew there was an issue when 5,000 applications were out there. We went to court openly. Anyone that was subpoenaed for my campaign, we were ready to testify. The city called none of my supporters to the stand because there was no case. Okay. There was no case against us. There was no case. And yet we're here trying to say it's John Gomes that we're going. The reason why there's a special election. No, it's because Joe Ganim and his corrupt people stole an election of which 1,300 votes were unaccounted for. And it was justified through the verdict of Judge Clark.
John Gomes, can I ask you a different question? If you become mayor, this is something very near and dear to me. And I don't know that we've had a chance, even with several interviews, to really get at what you will do as mayor on this. It's really important to me and a lot of my listeners. This beautiful 400-acre forest of Remington Woods, which because of earlier pollution has been allowed to grow and continue to thrive as a wildlife oasis that, in fact, when I happened to run into you one day, remember I was with, right? I met you when you were on the campaign trail, and somebody turned to me and said, I can't remember, somebody turned to me and said, that is Remington Woods at the end of the block. It might have been Maria. Somebody pointed it out to me. It's 400 acres of continuous land, 75 of which are in Stratford, but the vast majority are in Bridgeport. And nobody has been willing, at least on this program to me, to say unequivocally that it should stay an undeveloped urban conservation paradise maybe with a couple of walking trails for individuals, you know, initially for passive recreational space, but not developed with any kind of buildings on it. Are you willing to say that? Is this something you care about if you're mayor?
Of course I do. And unequivocally, I will not touch Remington Woods. We don't need to touch Remington Woods. And anything that the neighbors in that area are already experiencing difficulties from flooding and other issue, any development there will continue to add to that. So that's not, I will not touch that area. We have 22 miles of water accessibility. We have 183 properties that's owned by the city that's undeveloped. We have plenty of areas to develop and bring new sector and industry into the city without touching Remington Woods. And that's my promise to you and to the city of Bridgeport. I will bring new economic vision and ideas to Bridgeport that will sustain Bridgeport in the long term and bring Bridgeport that economic prosperity that we deserve. There's high taxes, you know, contribution to education, new jobs, quality jobs. And I promise you that.
Okay. John Gomes, thank you very much for coming on the air today. Good luck with the campaign. It's February 27th. I imagine you'll be trying to get in front of as many people as you possibly can in as short a time as possible. And good luck, really, with all of it. Thank you very much for coming back on the show.
Well, thank you very much, and always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for what you do, not only for the voters of Bridgeport, the residents of Bridgeport, for the Connecticut as a state. And I humbly ask everyone, if you want to change in Bridgeport, new leadership, please consider me. I'll be on row C. All parties. I'm mayor for all people. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John Gomes.